NIKA is Joyboy, Luffy is Joyboy, but Luffy is not NIKA. Joyboy is here, but Luffy is gone, so how can Luffy be Joyboy? Now, as confusing as all of that probably sounds, trust me, it will all make sense by the end of this video. Also, manga spoilers ahead, so you should probably dip now if you're not caught up with the manga. So I want you to think back, when was the first time we learned about Joyboy? It was right after we jumped into the New World during the Fishman Island arc. King Neptune's explanation is that Joyboy was this mysterious figure from the Void Century who couldn't fulfill a promise to them. The people of Fishman Island have kept Noah intact since a certain day of importance, Joyboy's return, would eventually come to fruition. Where else do we hear a very similar story? Well, we hear the same story again in Wano. We hear that one day Joyboy would return to open the borders of Wano once again. We learn in Odin's flashback that long ago, Wano's borders were actually open but closed at one point to protect the country from something. Now, Joyboy has returned to save the people of Fishman Island and open the borders of Wano. The time in which Wano's borders were closed is also assumed to be around the same time the Kozuki created the poneglyphs. But there is one thing that does not add up when going over all of this information about Joyboy. That one thing is that all of these promises were made over 800 years ago. Even if Joyboy was a giant, like a lot of people suspect, he would surely be dead by now. So how could he possibly return to fulfill all of these promises? I have a very strong idea regarding this. In my last video, I explained what the voice of all things really is and how intrinsically connected it is to souls, inherited will, and the core at the heart of everything. These are all phrases we hear constantly throughout the story. I'm not going to go too crazy in depth, but to summarize my points, the voice of all things is a wavelength that is able to be sensed by people with the ability to hear it. This ability ranges in levels, with each subsequent level equating to a more in-tune sense of this wavelength. Again, I highly recommend watching that theory as well to better understand what I'm saying. I'll go ahead and leave a link at the end of this video and the top right side of the screen. So each soul within the One Piece world has a voice, and these souls can be embedded within things like swords, devil fruits, trees, poneglyphs, and even more. But the one I want to focus on right now is devil fruits. We've learned recently that Luffy's devil fruit is extremely important, way more important than any of us ever thought before, and its awakening is what we are witnessing in the last panel of chapter 1043. What we don't know right now is why. Why is Luffy's devil fruit so important? What lies within the devil fruit that makes it special? For this question, I have gathered hints that Oda has dropped earlier on that will lead us to our answer. First, the 5 elders mentioned that this fruit has not been awakened for centuries. This implies that the last time it was awakened was probably during the Void Century. Second, Roger was too early. Why was Roger too early? Because Poseidon had not yet been born, and the Gumu Gumu no Mi, if we can even call it that anymore, had not yet awakened. Third, the laugh that we see at the end of chapter 1043 is not Luffy's laugh. What do I mean by this? Well, I gotta put on my Uteron cap to explain this. Luffy, when he laughs, is pronounced in hiragana as she. We see this a lot throughout the series, with many different characters having their own distinct laugh. A recent example being the Numbers, who each have their own unique laugh based on their assigned number. What makes this gesture of laughter in 1043 important is that in hiragana it is spelled NIKA. And please guys, don't mistake this for the name NIKA. I'm currently taking Japanese to finish off my foreign language units in college, and my professor pointed out that older names in Japanese are spelled with katakana, another Japanese alphabet, just like we see during Jinbei vs. Who's Who when NIKA is first introduced as a character. So this NIKA in chapter 1043 is purely a gesture of grinning or laughter. It could even be equated to a chuckle. For my final point, Luffy's voice is gone. That is stated twice in this chapter. Luffy's heart also stopped for a very short period of time. Thus, Luffy died. I mean, he's not dead, right? I mean, the story still has to continue, but his heart obviously stopped and then started again. And when his heart starts to beat again, the voice that we get is not Luffy's. Those drums of liberation that Zunisha heard are a direct manifestation of that voice. So if Luffy's voice is gone and Luffy's laughter has changed, then what does all this mean? Something very important to remember here. Souls can be embedded into other things. The ancestor trees, white trees, poneglyphs, Brook, and even Big Mom's ability proves this. We've seen how devil fruits reincarnate themselves after the user dies. If the previous Joyboy's soul was embedded within Luffy's devil fruit, then what I think happened is that when Luffy died, the will of that soul forcibly awakened the fruit to prevent Luffy from dying. However, However, now the person we are seeing awaken is not Luffy, but NIKA, the previous Joyboy. Either that or a part of NIKA's soul, since it caused the awakening, has now merged with Luffy, and NIKA and Luffy have become one and the same. Even with all of my previous points, I know this might sound a little crazy, a little bit out there, but let me restate some things and bring up a couple new points. Thriller bark is a frequent reference when drawing parallels to Wano. Ryuma was introduced to the story, a little bit of Kaido's past was introduced through Moria, and the theme of not being able to stand up to creatures such as Kaido in the New World has finally come full circle. But the one that hasn't gotten much attention, since it probably wasn't relevant until now, is the shadows that Luffy consumed to gain power. Think about it for a second. Luffy had shadows which contained personalities of the people they were taken from put into him to make him strong enough to defeat the big bad of the arc. Now currently in Wano, Luffy, who has another soul within him, is awakening, leading Luffy to exhibit his personality traits of that other soul within him, and through that gaining the strength to defeat Kaido, the big bad of this arc. So why do I think the previous Joyboy is the sun god NIKA, and why is Joyboy, even after all this, still a title, whereas NIKA is a name? Again, the numbers of Kaido's crew each have a laugh based on their specific name, which is a number. The laugh we see in the last panel is pronounced NIKA. This is why I'm 110% certain that NIKA was named after the way he laughs. This laugh is specific to the sun god, not Luffy, since Luffy's laugh or chuckle is pronounced as she, which is why it's so clear to me that either NIKA has completely taken over Luffy, or NIKA and Luffy's soul have become one, both of which would lead to him also getting the title of Joyboy at the end of the arc. How this changes Luffy going forward, I have no idea, but I'm willing to bet that Luffy will not take this lying down. He is not the type of person to just let some other soul come in and affect his personality. So there's two things, or rather situations, that I could see playing out here. One, Luffy and NIKA have become the same person. Their personalities were already the same, thus we really don't see a huge change in Luffy, besides the fact that he's way stronger and he now has a huge amount of newly found knowledge that will lead him to carry out NIKA's will from 800 years ago. Now Luffy has a reason to topple the world government, and Luffy now knows why he needs to destroy Fishman Island. Two, my other situation is that once Luffy awakens, Luffy is no longer Luffy, but NIKA. The two are very similar to each other, but there are distinct differences. The thing is, Luffy isn't going to be cool with that. He's going to end up having a quick bout with NIKA and force NIKA to pass on, because this is Luffy's body, and he would not be a free man if he had to share it with someone else, nor if somebody was controlling it. But before NIKA passes on, he shares his knowledge with Luffy, and Luffy is left to make his own decisions on what to do with this information. Of course, Luffy would still do the right thing, thus still leading to Luffy getting the Joyboy title at the end of the arc. I think another great reference to make here is Cavendish, who was also possessed or controlled by another soul. Cavendish's bout with Hakuba, I think, is very similar to what we could see with Luffy and NIKA if the second option that I presented happens in the manga. Either way, NIKA or Joyboy has returned. By now, you guys probably understand the gist of what I was saying at the beginning, even if it didn't make that much sense when I said it. NIKA was Joyboy, Luffy will be Joyboy, but Luffy and NIKA are two different people, two different souls, two different voices. Maybe NIKA and Luffy become one, like we see so often in other series like Naruto, Bleach, Black Clover, and more. Or maybe Luffy will go against this anime trope and force NIKA's soul to pass on, but promises to fulfill his dream for him. The Luffy we know and have come to love will still be Luffy, but with a new purpose. He will defeat Kaido, open the borders of Wano, and be given the title Joyboy. I'm curious to hear if you guys have other ideas on what's gonna happen next, so please let me know in the comments your theory on all of this. Also, don't forget to check out my theory on the voice of all things, which will leave you absolutely speechless at how obvious everything was from the beginning.